My name is Brittany DeBarros, and I'm a captain in the Army Reserve. It's gotten harder and harder for me to be in a uniform that I know is presently being used to carry out such violence in so many places. You know, my convictions have gotten stronger and stronger as I've learned more and been working and speaking more about what's really happening. I put this uniform on and I continue to do my job to the best of my ability, but what does it mean if I know that people are being sold lies and I say nothing about it? Do I have integrity if that's the way that I lead?
My name is Brittany DeBarros. I'm a woman. I'm white. I'm Latina. I'm black. I'm queer. And I'm a combat veteran. As a person existing at the intersections of these identities, I carry a grave conviction in my core that there can be no true economic, racial, gender liberation without addressing the militarism that is strangling the morality and empathy out of our society.
And I gave a speech in Washington, D.C. at the rally that was the kickoff of the campaign after 40 days of action took place in over 30 states around the country, talking about my experience as a veteran and why I believe that the wars that we're a part of are immoral despite how invisible that they've become to the average American.
They want us to believe the lie that the precious lives of our soldiers are being spent for the protection of our freedoms. But I spent a year witnessing the bravery and beauty of the Afghan people. Men and women, fathers and mothers risking their lives and their families to overcome oppressive organizations that we funded and enabled.
And I was threatened days after giving that speech with an investigation by my chain of command, despite not saying that I was a service member, not being in uniform, not being on military duty, and not speaking against any specific elected officials or speaking even in a partisan way. It feels like a moment where your life feels like the sum of what your life means could be made explicit in that moment. And you have to make a decision about what matters enough to you to put yourself at risk and what risk you're willing to take in order to defend that. You know, I was thinking, what is it that I can do? You know, because I think that one thing in our country is that when you talk about what's happening, when people realize, oh my gosh, I didn't know we were bombing 7 countries, or I didn't know that we have 800 military bases while the rest of the world has approximately 70 combined, or any of these things, right, that they're shocked and then overwhelmed, right? Like, but what can I as an individual possibly do about any of that? I really think that if more people were aware, I really believe in people, and I really believe that if more people were aware, then we could build the kind of momentum and power that's necessary to start to change the landscape of what's possible in this country. And so I thought, well, I'm gonna share facts. That's at least something I can do. So I made graphics, and I, you know, with one fact, mostly that I pulled from DoD reports, things that I found on Google, all public. I started off with one that I think raises a lot of shock, because even people who are aware, we still have people in Iraq, we still have people in Afghanistan, right? We have people in Syria, all of this. They think of it as like, well, it's died down, right? It's advisors and things like that, but people don't realize that we're at almost the height of what our bombing campaigns have been, that we're dropping a bomb every 12 minutes when you average out the numbers. And I posted a document where I showed the math, right, and pulled, these are not sources from third-party NGO sources. This is information from the DoD. You click on it and it's an Air Force report. The fact that we're bombing 7 countries at any given time, and that those are all Black, brown, Muslim countries, impoverished countries, right? And I say those things because it's vital that people understand that militarism is a question of racial justice, right? It is a question of gender justice. It's a question of economic justice and environmental justice, and that all of these things are deeply interconnected. What is driving a lot of our actions is very likely not what we think, which is freedom and, protecting our country and bringing democracy to the world and liberating oppressed peoples, as it's so often sold to the American people. And in fact, that corporations took up and profited from about 45% of that same budget. And then the next day there was an Army Times article claiming that I was anti-military and all of these things. And then the next day there was a Business Insider article, and I found out from that Army Times article that my chain of command had made the decision to formalize an investigation against me. Of course it's scary. I believe that a lot of people in the military think that all political opinions and speech have to be taken off as soon as you put that uniform on. I believe what I heard someone else say, which was, if someone can stand in uniform as an officer and as a leader and speak about why we should be in war, why shouldn't I, as a leader, be able to stand in my uniform and say that we shouldn't be at war?
Actually, it's a lot of fun to fight them, It's a hell of a hoot. It's fun to shoot some people. I'll be right up on you. I like brawling.
I'm recommending about a total of 400,000 people between the Army and the police.
That's doubling.
It is.
What we've got to do in 12 to 18 months is just show that we basically know what we're doing out here. There's some glimmers of success that we need to show. There's some perceptions that we need to change.
My status as a veteran isn't something I had ever really worn on my sleeve. It's not something that I felt particularly proud of, because I came home from Afghanistan and it was really clear to me that things were not as they were sold to us, and I spent years making sense of what was really happening, and that launched me onto this journey of education and trying to understand what was really going on. So often it feels like so little to share a tweet or a Facebook post, but when you're talking about a system that even my own soldiers hardly understand even being a part of it, right? When I ask them, which countries are we bombing? They can't tell you. When there's that little awareness raising is ground zero.